All right, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to talk about Gervonta "Tank" Davis, Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, Floyd Mayweather Jr., and whether or not these fights can be made between these fighters. And the answer, the long and the short of it is probably not, based on what Floyd Mayweather has said. Now, before I get into before I get into the subject matter, please hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. It really does help the channel grow, and it'd be greatly appreciated. So Gervonta "Tank" Davis is a 3-division champion. He holds belts at 130 pounds, the WBA super title at 130. He owns the 135-pound WBA regular belt, and he owns the 140-pound WBA regular belt. All of that means he's a major champion at 130 pounds. But he is also one of the most popular young fighters coming up. He does excellent numbers on Showtime. His pay-per-view against somebody named like Mario Barrios did over 200,000 pay-per-view buys, and Steven Espinosa is very happy with it. His name recognition is definitely up there, higher than any of the other the Ryan Garcias, Teofimo Lopez, or Devin Haney's. Right, so this is a guy that people clearly want to see fight. Now, here's the problem: we're more than likely not going to see Gervonta Davis in any fights against people that we know, right, or that we want to see him fight in. Now, why is that? Because Floyd Mayweather Jr., and I've seen this already from Floyd, it's not a big surprise, but he said it out loud that he only wants in-house fights. And when people only want in-house fights, and you have really a small promotional company like Mayweather Promotions, that doesn't really leave a lot of options for you to fight. I know that though he's not just talking about Mayweather Promotions, he's talking about the PBC. But if you look at the number of people around Gervonta Davis's weight class, and you see who they're promoted by, it right there tells you that there's a big chance that you're really not going to see a lot of these fights. Now, and it's something that I have to criticize Mayweather Promotions for, because if I don't, I'm being a hypocrite. One of the biggest problems in boxing, in my opinion, are the promoters. A lot of people talk about the sanctioning bodies and all of the championships, but in my opinion, the biggest problem in sports are not in sports, but in the sport of boxing, are the promoters, especially the big promoters who try to create these little insular bubbles for their fighters to fight in. And the guy that I always get on for doing that is Bob Arum, because Bob Arum will hype a fighter and a match up with somebody outside of his promotional company, but when it comes down to it, he won't make the fight because they want to make in-house fights. And why do they want to make in-house fights? They want to make in-house fights for the money. Because when an in-house fight means that you have, when there's two fighters in fighting each other, that one promoter is promoting both of those fighters. And what you wind up having happen then is you save money in the long run, or in the short run actually, because you don't have another promoter to pay. And it also allows you to make fights that you want, to be made. And it guarantees that no matter what, you're going to walk out the winner. That promoter is not going to lose. Just like what Don King used to do, when he would walk in the ring with the fighter that he was promoting, and he would walk out of the ring with the guy that won, whether it was the guy he was promoting or the guy that he didn't. It didn't matter to him, because it's 6 on one hand, half dozen the other. He's getting paid either way. So, but for it to see that happening to Gervonta Davis is really, I don't want to say it's sad, but it's like, man, why would you do that to a guy that is as good as Gervonta Davis? It's like they're trying to put Gervonta Davis and they've done this pretty much since he signed with when he pretty much from the time that he signed with Floyd Mayweather Jr., that he got put on this thing where you have to call it the Mayweather Plan, where all he's doing is fighting a bunch of flat-footed guys with with Spanish last names and doing it somewhere around a Mexican holiday. That's what Floyd Mayweather Jr. did all the time when he fought Robert the Ghost Guerrero. I think he wound up fighting Andre Berto in his last official fight, kind of like as a favor to Andre Berto, and got Andre Berto a big payday. But before that, it was Manny Pacquiao, and Manny Pacquiao's a special exception. But you had Robert the Ghost Guerrero, you had Victor Ortiz, you had Juan Manuel Marquez, you had it was guy after guy after guy who had, and they were all pretty much under Golden Boy Promotions at the time. And it was like, come on, man. And then he wound up not facing guys like Keith Thurman, Sean Porter. I'm not sure if Danny Garcia had moved up in there. Sorry about that, not editing that out. had a feeling that was going to happen. Anyway, you get my point. What they do is they just really push, a bunch of fights where all they're doing is they're making it because they want to make as big of an event as they can. And that's what Leonard Ellerbe has said about Gervonta Davis, that they're not interested in the best fights. He's interested in the biggest fights. Now, that's not a quote of Leonard Ellerbe. I'm just saying that that's what Leonard Ellerbe says, and he's being very, very specific about it. He said, we're trying to make big fights with Tank. And big fights are that formula they were using when Floyd Mayweather Jr. made $500 million, right? He wasn't necessarily fighting the toughest fighters in that weight division, but he was making very, very big events and making a spectacle where these guys wound up making a lot of money. So what does that mean for Gervonta Davis? It means that he is not going to fight several very good fighters that are around his weight class. You got Ryan Garcia, who they say that they're going to be, that they're supposed to be having this rumored negotiation going on. But then, it's hard for me to believe in that particular instance that it's Floyd Mayweather Jr. that doesn't want the fight. I think it's Oscar De La Hoya that doesn't want the fight, because Ryan Garcia is in no way, shape, or form is he ready for Gervonta Tank Davis. And he went even so far as to trash, this is being Oscar De La Hoya, he went so far as to trash the pay-per-view numbers of Gervonta Davis versus Mario Barrios. And it was a funny bet that that Ellerbe made when he told him pretty much to shut up. And he said, yeah, okay, if we didn't sell that many pay-per-views, then I'll pay you $1 million, because they actually have the numbers that they can show and it can be validated. I'll pay you $1 million for every view under 215,000 if you give me $1 million for everyone over 90, right? And that you right there is, they're not going to take that bet. But regardless, that fight is more than likely not going to happen. The fight between Vasily Lomachenko, he and Vasily Lomachenko, probably not going to happen. He's already said the fight with Devin Haney, and Gervonta Davis isn't happening. And then there is no fight between him and Lomachenko. Now, there could be this reasoning for Floyd Mayweather Jr. also, is that if you look at these guys, Ryan Garcia, Lomachenko, Haney, Teofimo Lopez, they're all significantly bigger than Gervonta Tank Davis. And so maybe what they're looking at is to have him fighting at the 130, 135 pound, division against guys that are, coming up in weight, or some guys that are actually at that weight. That's a justification that they could have, but still, those aren't the big name fighters that are really going to get people continually have people excited about Tank, because eventually people are going to start saying, man, yeah, you're really good, but hey, there's these other guys, why don't you want to fight them? You know what I mean? But anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think, and with that, I'm out. Peace.